The Denver Broncos suffer another ugly loss, and the injury bug just continues to bite. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Denver Broncos Syndicate, part of the Sports Syndicate family of channels where we are dedicated to bringing you content about our favorite sports teams. I am your host, Gage Madrid. Before we jump in, if you could just do me a big favor and help us grow by subscribing and ringing the notification bell, as well as leaving a like on this video, that would be awesome. We are getting really close to our big goal of 1,000 subscribers, so let's see if we can get there by Thanksgiving. I really think that we can. Yesterday afternoon, the Denver Broncos fell to the New York Jets at home 16-9. Now, this was a game that the Broncos were down several key starters such as Russell Wilson, Javonte Williams, Tim Patrick, Ronald Darby, Randy Gregory, Garrett Bowles, and so many more that it's getting hard to name. The Broncos were forced to start fourth-year backup quarterback Brett Rippon in the game. Although he did make some nice plays, it ultimately wasn't enough. The team struggled to run the football, and they failed to convert multiple times on third down and short. On defense, they played a mostly solid game, except for giving up a 62-yard touchdown run to Breece Hall early in the game, and at the end of the day, that was really the difference maker for us. Another thing that played a factor, obviously, in our losses was our struggles in the kicking game. Brandon McManus missed a field goal and an extra point. On the missed PAT, that one's on the holder, punter Corliss Waitman. He bobbled the ball, and it completely threw off the timing. I don't know if it was a bad snap by rookie long snapper Mitchell Fraboni, but nonetheless, it was still an egregious error that cost the Broncos points. Later in the game, McManus missed again, and honestly, I'm not going to really put that one on him either. It was a questionable coaching decision, deciding to kick a 57-yard field goal into a really gusty wind. I mean, gusts at the stadium had to have been reaching 30 miles an hour plus. It was really windy out there yesterday. To make the decision to kick a long field goal in the wind, you can't really put that on McManus for missing that one. But at the end of the day, it did cost the team 4 points, and that ultimately cost us the chance to go down and kick a game-tying field goal towards the end of the game. Had we had those 4 points, we would have already been in field goal range and not have had to face the 4th down and 10 that we did at the end of the game. And on that play, the Broncos just chucked that one up to nobody in the end zone, and it fell incomplete, obviously. It was another game of poor play calling and poor play sequencing from Nathaniel Hackett. Although Russell Wilson has had his fair share of struggles, which has certainly contributed to our losses, at the end of the day, Coach Hackett has also had his fair share of struggles, and I don't know at this point who we can exactly pinpoint is the root cause of our issues, but given that Nathaniel Hackett still struggled with some basic stuff yesterday, that probably does not bode well for him long term. Now, the Broncos, who are already ravaged by injuries, got even more unlucky yesterday as several more players were injured. Injuries continue to pile up on the slumping Denver Broncos as MRI exams Monday morning revealed that they will lose outside linebacker Baron Browning, left tackle Cam Fleming, and backup running back Mike Boone for multiple weeks. Browning, who had been starting in place of the injured Randy Gregory, will miss the game Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars in London because of a strained hip flexor, a source told 9 News. It's a 3-week injury, but with the Broncos on bye the following week, there is hope that Browning will be able to play the following Sunday, November 13th at Tennessee. Boone suffered a right high ankle sprain in the first half of the Broncos' 16-9 loss to the New York Jets. X-rays were negative, a source confirmed, but Boone will miss some time. To fill in for Boone, the Broncos signed veteran running back Marlon Mack off the San Francisco 49ers practice squad. Mack goes to the 53-man roster, while Boone has been placed on short-term injured reserve and will miss at least 4 weeks. Mack, 26, rushed for a combined 1,999 yards and 17 touchdowns for the Indianapolis Colts in 2018 and 19, but suffered a season season-ending and career-altering Achilles tear in the 2020 season opener. He returned last season, but had just 101 yards on 28 carries in 6 games. He's been with the Houston Texans and the 49ers this year, but does not have a carry in 2022. Losing Boone absolutely sucks. Although Melvin Gordon did get the start yesterday at running back, Boone was featured pretty heavily in the rotation prior to his injury. After that, it was a pretty healthy dose of Latavius Murray, who I still feel should be the Broncos' RB1. I'm curious to see what Marlon Mack can do, but at the end of the day, running backs coming off of Achilles injuries generally don't have promising results. So I'm not optimistic about what we're going to get out of Marlon Mack, but if we get something positive, I will consider that a win for sure. As far as losing Cam Fleming's concerned, he had been playing right tackle for us for the beginning of the season in place of an injured Billy Turner, and once Garrett Bowles went down and Turner returned, he shifted back over to the left side. In my opinion, he was playing a lot better on that left side than he was on the right side. It's just his more natural position. And although he wasn't great by any means, he was playing at least somewhat serviceable for us. Now Calvin Anderson goes in at that left tackle position, and he's really struggled, so I'm really concerned about where things stand there. Now, the Broncos did somewhat address this issue. The Broncos also signed offensive tackle Christian DeLauro to their practice squad per source. DeLauro was among 5 players who worked out for the team Friday. He will add depth protection after starting left tackle Cam Fleming suffered a game-ending right quad injury against the Jets. Fleming was replaced by Calvin Anderson. The Broncos also have former Colorado Buffalo tackle Will Sherman on their practice squad. It was also announced that the Broncos have signed long snapper Mitchell Fraboni from their practice squad to the active roster. Fraboni came in and replaced the injured Jacob Bobenmoyer, who's going to probably miss the rest of the season because of a wrist injury. So Fraboni figures to be our starting long snapper moving forward, so now the team's just going to go ahead and carry him on the active roster because you can only promote him from the practice squad so many times. Now, the overall mood today in the Mile High City is definitely pretty glum. The Broncos are sitting at 2-5, and their overall outlook for the rest of this season just doesn't look great. Although Nathaniel Hackett said that Russell Wilson does have a strong chance to return next week, I don't know if his return is going to ignite a spark in our really struggling offense. Our defense continues to play lights out, but it's all being wasted by poor offensive performance. At this point, Nathaniel Hackett's seat is starting to get pretty hot. That said, I don't know if he's going to get fired in season just because of the lack of interim coaching options on the roster. I don't think the team wants to put any more pressure on defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero, who's been one of the bright spots on this coaching staff. Although he's done a great job as a defensive coordinator, adding on a ton of game day responsibilities and just other responsibilities in general might not be the best thing for him. The only other option that the Broncos have who has head coaching experience in the NFL is Dom Capers. Capers is getting up there in age, and I don't imagine that he's going to want to take things over at this point. Also, if he does, I don't know if much is really going to change. Offensive coordinator Justin Outen would probably take over as the offensive play caller, but otherwise, I don't see much changing. If Nathaniel Hackett wants to save face, I really think that he needs to give up the offensive play calling duties. That way, he can just focus on the game management aspect of things and just not have to deal with the extra responsibilities of calling the plays on offense. He can still be involved in the decision making there for sure, but at the end of the day, to be the one who's having to deal with the play calling as well as the game management stuff is really, it seems like it's just too much for him. Now the question becomes, if the Broncos do go that route, who should replace Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive play caller? Although obviously offensive coordinator Justin Outen is probably the top candidate, in my opinion there's a dark horse candidate who makes even more sense. That candidate is quarterbacks coach Clint Kubiak and was also the offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings last season. Clint Kubiak at least has some experience as a play caller, which Justin Outen doesn't have, so I think that would be the route to go if Nathaniel Hackett does relinquish the play calling duties. Something has to give. The Broncos are sitting at 2-5, and right now I don't think firing Nathaniel Hackett is a realistic move. but what is a realistic move is him changing the guard and giving up the offensive play calling duties. I really think that's something that should happen. I'm curious, Broncos country, do you agree? Do you think Nathaniel Hackett needs to give up the offensive play calling duties? Drop those comments down below. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. And while you're at it, be sure to follow me on Twitter at Gage Madrid NFL for even more Broncos coverage. And for now, this has been another episode of Denver Broncos Syndicate. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out and let's ride.